So we're specifically talking about using Aeroplan Points to go around the world or on longer distance journeys, so at least across the Atlantic or the Pacific. We're looking at these routes because it offers the best value for Aeroplan Points. Typically, their rates are not the best for shorter haul flights. Now we'll get started with a few things that you should know about Aeroplan Points. One great thing about Aeroplan Points is that they're transferable from several major credit card programs, so your Chase cards, your Capital One, your American Express. So this is great when you have a family or household with different cards and they all want to use their points to go on a trip together. And that also leads into the fact that they can pool this with family members. And so if one family member has more points than the other and you're trying to put together enough points for an itinerary, you can pull them all together. And they don't have an expiration date, so you don't have to worry about that, and they transfer one-to-one from all major credit card programs. You can also look out for some transfer bonuses. They run periodically through the year, and you can usually expect to see around a 15% transfer bonus, and that'll help your credit card points go even further when using them for travel. Now, what we're going to be diving into is more about the flexible routing that you can use. And so this is going to help you mix up different airlines and pick the stops that you want and perfect your timing and everything when planning a trip. So what we're going to be doing to be planning our ideal trip along the route that we want is make use of layovers and stopovers. Layovers are less than 24 hours, while stopovers last longer than 24 hours. And how long a stopover is allowed varies by the loyalty program. And a stopover is a stop during a one-way award ticket or any other regular ticket. You're probably familiar with different stopover programs that TAP Portugal runs, or some of the Middle Eastern airlines, where they encourage you to stay in their hub and offer promotions on stays in hotels, so that way you can stop there and see a little bit more about the city that they're trying to promote. Now, Aeroplan allows stopovers on all award tickets and allows one stopover for a maximum of 45 days, and it's only 5,000 points extra to add on this stopover. Now, it is subject to select routing rules, and so we're going to go into a little bit more about how you can plan this stopover. Firstly, why should you even add on extra layovers or stopovers? What's great about layovers and stopovers is they break up the journey between long-haul flights. And so that way you get a little bit closer to your time zone you're working towards. You also don't go just from flight to airport to the next flight and come out exhausted. Rather, you can break up the journey and have some time to relax in a city or a hotel in between. It also allows you to explore additional destinations. These might be destinations that you never would have thought to go to or have just never had the chance to go to. You can also include more flights for the same amount of points, and so this is a great feature of using stopovers. And you'll see what I mean when I show you the sample itineraries. Now, in planning an itinerary, you'll have to pay attention to the Aeroplan routing rules. This means you'll have to travel in one direction, but you can use up to 6 different carriers and 6 different segments. The layover of each segment can be up to 24 hours, or you can make it shorter. I love a 24-hour layover because it really does give you enough time to at least see a major site in the city. When you add a stopover, it can be up to 45 days long for the additional 5,000 points. The thing that can get tricky is the amount of miles that your itinerary is flying. And so this is how they calculate where you are on the pricing chart, as well as if it goes according to the routing rules. So the total number of miles flown by each of the different segments cannot be more than twice the direct distance from your starting and ending city. And you can check this on greatcirclemapper.com, and you can put each segment, the length, as well as the direct route, and see how many miles that is. You may even want to add an additional segment to make the distance between that first and last city longer, even if you may not intend to fly that segment. And that way it still works within the routing rules and you get all the other segments that you were needing. For example, if you wanted to go from New York to Sydney, you would calculate the number of miles that is directly from those two cities, and then you'll have a good base to start with. So double that amount of miles is the amount of miles that you can travel on this one-way award. So you can calculate then the distance between Miami and New York, for example, and add on to Chicago or in California, and that's all going to start counting towards that double allotment of miles that you'll be able to work within from your direct beginning and ending cities. Now, how this finally prices is depending on the amount of miles from your direct to city points and the zones that they're in. You'll see here that these are the different zones that Aeroplan uses to segment the world. So we've got the North America zone, South America, Atlantic, and Pacific. And so they price it whether you're going from North America to the Atlantic, or if you're going North America to finally the Pacific, or North America to South America, for example, and vice versa. So we'll take a look at what part of their award chart looks like. Just for example, I've pulled from their North America and the Atlantic zone, as well as the North America and the Pacific zone charts, since we're focusing on these longer haul passages to make the most out of their pricing bands. And so you'll notice that while the first category is the distance it covers that affects the price, next is also the operator. And so Aeroplan prices dynamically as well as select partners, including Etihad and United. So prices are going to vary based on demand and other factors that they determine. So you'll just have to search and see what it prices at. They've instituted a starting at and a median price to know the lowest price you could expect to see, as well as what most members typically pay for that route or distance. All other partners are subject to a fixed pricing chart, and so when flying any of those other partners, you can expect to see the flights cost exactly that much, including no matter how many segments are flown within the 6 segments allotted. Then you'll see the fact that they have economy and business pricing. They also have premium economy pricing as well as first class. I just couldn't fit that into the slide. And so when you're trying to look for how to book this award, you're going to search by each individual segment. So you're going to write down available flights, their date, the time, and the flight number. And that's very important information that you're going to be needing later on. While you write down your possible options for your flights, calculate the layovers. You'll want to either have pretty short layovers or really long layovers, depending if you'd like to step out and see the city, which I highly recommend. You'll also need to pick wherever you'd like to stop over. Sometimes you have to use a stopover by necessity to link all the available segments. Sometimes a business class flight might not be available every day, or you might be looking close in and it's only available on a certain date, and so you might have to stop over in one of those cities a little longer to wait for that next business class flight. You could also choose your stopover based on wherever you'd like to explore some more, and use award search tools to increase your efficiency when searching for these flights, because it is going to take quite a number of searches, and tools like Points can search multiple dates at a time and multiple programs. Also within Aeroplan, you can see the calendar view, and that's going to give you a good basis on what you're looking for when you understand how the segments each price and what you should expect to see. Now you've written down all your flights, determined your layovers and your stopover. Now you're ready to call to book. You're going to have to call to book because online you can only use their multi-city tool, and that's going to let you pick your stopover but not necessarily your layovers or your carrier Here's exactly how to book that online. You go to aircanada.com, click book with Aeroplan Points, and sign in. Then you're going to want to change round trip to multi-city/stopover, remove that second flight that it adds, and so that way you're just looking for one award flight. You're going to add your starting and ending points. In this case, we looked for New York, and then to end in Istanbul. I picked a travel date that was just pretty far out, just to see all the possible options. Then added my desired stopover city, in this case Rome. And then you can choose the length of your stopover. I just put for 7 days, and then search. Click OK. And it'll take a minute to load while it's giving you all your options. And then you'll finally have your flights. And so it decided that it wanted to put you on a direct flight on United and then a direct flight with Turkish, and you can see the options for economy class and business class. In this case, a mixed cabin. You'll see which cabin exactly that is. It's not in the business class, as well as the pricing and taxes that is going to be. And so for more complicated itineraries, you'll need to call in. Now, the agent may or may not know how to do this award, but I've had success most of the time when calling on the first try. But if it doesn't work out the first time and they give you some crazy price that prices each segment specifically, then just hang up and call again and work on getting another associate. So this can take a little while because hold times are generally very extended for Aeroplan. You can expect to wait 1 to 2 hours to speak with someone. So here's a sample itinerary that I actually flew. I first got a positioning flight over into Washington, D.C., and was able to explore the museums there before boarding a flight the next day on Egypt Air to Cairo. And so I used my somewhat like 8-hour layover to tour the pyramids and the Egyptian Museum there in Cairo. It was pretty easy. You can just get a private driver and explore all the sites that you want to see. From there, we left in the evening on Etihad to Abu Dhabi, and I spent the night in Abu Dhabi and then did the desert safari morning tour that included like sandboarding and camel riding, so that was really fun. And then later that evening took the Etihad flight over to Singapore. In Singapore, of course, there's lots of things to do, but generally stayed in the Marina Bay Sands area and explored the gardens there and the pool and everything. Then we went on Singapore Air to Bali, and this was my stopover, so I spent 10 days in Bali and did lots of excursions there. Finally, I rode Virgin Australia to Sydney, and from there I started hopping all around Australia. This was such a fun itinerary. It only cost 120,000 points at the time. Now we could expect it to vary in cost due to using Etihad as one of those select airline partners that prices variably. Another possibility, if you don't want all these stops, is directly flying to the United States to Abu Dhabi or another Middle Eastern hub, and then continuing on to Asia. What we did for my parents that were meeting me along parts of this itinerary is had them go directly to London, stop over in London, and then direct to Singapore, where then they just bought an additional flight over to Bali, and that actually got them into a lower pricing band as well. And all those flights were in business before to price out at 115,000 points plus the 5,000 point stopover. Now this next sample itinerary is one I just put together for getting both across the Atlantic and seeing a few cities in Europe. You can fly on TAP Air Portugal over to Lisbon, spend a few hours in Lisbon. I have done this before. Within like an 8-hour layover, I've taken like a private taxi tour and seen all the major sites there. I've also done a longer layover where you can stay overnight, and that's even better. Then you can take TAP Air Portugal over to Rome. And of course, while there's lots of things to do in Rome, you can also add on a cruise or do a road trip around Italy. So a great place to make that a stopover. And if you want to add in one more stop, you could even stop in Athens for a few hours and see the Acropolis there before finally heading to Istanbul, which is a good place to position yourself in order to get back to the United States, since there's lots of direct flights on Turkish Airlines. Now, this is a great way to get across the globe over into that Pacific region and explore Asia, as well as Australia and New Zealand. But it's also great to use Aeroplan Points to travel all around Europe and include some of those short hops and flights all over within your one-way award. That was a little bit of inspiration that you could use when planning your own trips around the world or across the Atlantic. And if you'd like to request a points consultation to skip all that planning and finding availability and putting it all together, then definitely send me a request at where'snatalienow.com. If you have any questions about something that you put together yourself or about other ways to use points, then send me an email at natalie@where'snatalienow.com. And then don't forget to follow me over on Where's Natalie Now. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and that's just daily travel tips and tricks. But most of all, I am giving away an amazing freebie. I wish I had this when I got started with the points. This is a points travel guide cheat sheet, and so it's going to lay out what you should expect to pay when going in from certain regions to another with economy and business class, and then what are your options for booking? What award system is going to be the best one for you to use? So this is really an invaluable tool, and it is available as part of the goodie bag for this summit. So don't forget to go ahead and grab that. It's going to make it so much easier when trying to figure out how many points you need to get to where, and then what kind of points you need in what system or what credit card. And it is just going to make your life so much easier when planning trips with points. Thank you so much, and if you enjoyed this webinar, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Thank you, and have a great day.